If you clicked on this video, you probably at the very least have an idea of who Sephiroth is. He's the main antagonist and final boss of Final Fantasy VII, as well as appearing in many other games like Kingdom Hearts and Smash Bros. Ultimate. If you don't know Sephiroth, you have probably heard his theme song One Winged Angel at some point. The song is instantly recognizable within the first second and has gone on to be one of the most iconic pieces of music in gaming history. While I know nothing of how music composition works, I would still like to talk about Sephiroth's theme and what the lyrics mean. This video will only cover the original One Winged Angel, so no Advent children. But before any of that, why is the song called One Winged Angel? The answer might seem obvious. I mean, just look at his Smash Bros. Render. He has one wing, so he's a one-winged angel. But Sephiroth didn't have one wing like this in the original Final Fantasy VII. In fact, he didn't have any wings until his final two forms called Bizarro Sephiroth and Safer Sephiroth. As Bizarro Sephiroth, both of his hands transform into wings. And as for Safer Sephiroth, where one winged angel actually plays, he has not one, not two, but 7 wings. 6 of these wings are white and on the lower half of his body, while the last wing is red and black and replaces his right arm. Safer Sephiroth's 6 wings is not a random number, it is actually a reference to the seraphim from Abrahamic religions. In these religions, there aren't just angels. Angels are divided into several different classes such as the seraphim, the cherubim, and even the popular depiction of an angel that's just a human with wings. The seraphim are the highest ranking angels right after God. The seraphim are described as having 6 wings in the Bible. Seraphim stood above him, each having 6 wings. Although the wings aren't all on the lower half of a seraph. With 2, he covered his face, and with 2, he covered his feet, and with 2, he flew. What does any of this have to do with the song name? Well, to be honest, I kinda fell into a rabbit hole while writing this part and really wanted to include all that, so there you go. I thought it was interesting. But let's reel it back for a moment. One Winged Angel could possibly be a mistranslation of the original Japanese name. After all, the original Final Fantasy VII is known for having a less than stellar English translation. It literally says the opposite of what it means. The Japanese name for One Winged Angel is Karyoku no Tenshi, if I'm pronouncing that right, which literally translates to an angel with a wing on one side. Now, I don't understand Japanese, so maybe I'm wrong, but it would look to me that the Japanese name has the same general meaning as the English one. Another possible explanation is that the name is not meant to be taken literally. The first thought that came to my mind of a one-winged angel was a fallen angel. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Fallen angels are angels that fell from grace. They were cast out of heaven for going against God. Satan, Lucifer, or whatever you want to call him, was one of these angels. Satan thought he was better than he actually was, which is what led him to rebel against God. Sephiroth is similar in this regard. He thought he and Jenova were ancients, people before humans that were deeply connected to the planet and could speak to it, but in actuality, they were just planet-destroying aliens. I thought this could work due to how Sephiroth fell from grace in Nibelheim, going against Shinra, his creators, like how Satan went against his creator God, and how he literally fell in the reactor, just like Satan fell from heaven into hell. However, I could not find any mention of fallen angels having only one wing, or even losing their wings. Despite this, the fallen angel aspect of Sephiroth is definitely there. Okay, so what if instead of representing a fallen angel, Sephiroth is actually becoming an angel? Or more accurately, Sephiroth is becoming a god. Well, this isn't really speculation, as the last part of the game is about Sephiroth's transcendence into becoming a god, and the name of the track that plays when fighting Bizarro Sephiroth is Birth of a God. Sephiroth's plan involves summoning a huge meteor to crash into the Earth, causing the lifestream to weaken, which would allow him to use the lifestream in order to transform into a god. One-winged angel can mean that Sephiroth is not fully through his transformation yet. Angels do not have one wing, so it is not actually an angel. So why is the song called One-Winged Angel? Well, to be honest, even after all that, I can't say 100% for certain. Is it referring to the wing arm and that's it? Yeah, it could be. Is it because Sephiroth represents a fallen angel? Makes sense to me. Is it because Sephiroth hasn't fully transformed into a god yet? Possibly. Is it a mix of few or even all of these things? Who knows? In all honesty, it's probably just referring to the one wing arm, but where's the fun in that? The lyrics of One Winged Angel are essential to the song. While the song still sounds really good as just an instrumental piece, it just isn't the same. As most of you probably know, the lyrics of One Winged Angel are in Latin. No, there are no Japanese lyrics, I'll get to that later. The lyrics mostly come from Karl I'm saying Orff. The lyrics mostly come from Karl Orff's Carmina Burana. The Carmina Burana is a cantata that was composed by Orff in 1935. He based the Carmina Burana off the Carmina Burana. Let me explain. The original Carmina Burana is a collection of poems dating back to the 11th century. Orff's Carmina Burana was based on some of these poems. One Winged Angel takes its lyrics from Estuans, Interius, O Fortuna, Veni, Veni, Venias, and Ave Formos. This. Some of these are a little obvious, yeah? Anyways, let's discuss what the meaning of these lyrics are. I know that by at this point, everybody and their mother knows what the lyrics of One Winged Angel translate to. While I will still cover what the lyrics translate to, I'll also go into what the lyrics mean in relation to Sephiroth and the original poems the lyrics come from. The lyrics is a subtle reference to the fact that Sephiroth is a Chad goth while Cloud is a Kryn. Okay, but for real, Estuans Interius era Vehementi translates to burning inside with violent anger, or as Wikipedia says, seething inside. In the context of One Winged Angel, this is obviously referring to how Sephiroth feels anger and disdain towards humans and Shinra after discovering his creation. As mentioned previously, at first he believes that he and Genova are ancients, and he's angry because he believes humans betrayed the ancients and let them die out due to cowardice, and then stole the planet from them. He was also pretty angry at Shinra for lying to him about his creation and, creating him in the first place. What about in the Carmina Burana? The poem reads as follows. Burning inside with violent anger, bitterly I speak my heart. Created from matter, of the ashes of the elements, I am like a leaf played with by the winds. If it is the way of the wise man to build foundations on stone, then I am a fool. Like a flowing stream, which in its course never changes, I am carried along like a ship without a steersman, and in the paths of the air like a light hovering bird. Chains cannot hold me, keys cannot imprison me. I look for people like me and join the wretches. The heaviness of my heart seems a burden to me. It is pleasant to joke and sweeter than honeycomb. Whatever Venus commands is a sweet duty. After vespers he will leave naked, and thus stripped of his clothes he will call out. Woe, woe, what have ye done, vilest fate? The joys of my life you have taken all away. Ha ha. If you're a big dum-dum like me, you might have absolutely no idea what this means. Well, about the Carmina Burana, most of the poems in the Carmina Burana aren't some super serious poem that ponders deep philosophical questions about mankind, but are instead mostly satire and sexual. According to this really good article, check it out, this poem is actually about a man getting drunker and drunker at a tavern. I honestly could not have gotten that from reading. Source Immanis et Inanis translates to fate, monstrous and empty. This one is a little harder to digest. If we were discussing the remake, this would be a bit easier. But anyways, this could be referring to what happens if Sephiroth wins. He rules over the planet. His previously mentioned plan involves summoning a meteor to hit the planet, which would cause the lifestream to weaken and allow Sephiroth to absorb it and become a god. In addition to the destruction caused by the meteor, Sephiroth absorbing the lifestream's energy would leave the planet empty of life. And as such, fate is monstrous and empty. As for the poem, don't worry, this one is actually about fate and has nothing to do with sex or getting drunk. Like the moon, you are changing, ever waxing and waning. Hateful life first oppresses and then soothes as fancy takes it. Poverty and power it melts them like ice. Fate, monstrous and empty, you whirling wheel, you are malevolent. Well-being is in vain and always fades to nothing. Shadowed and veiled you plague me too. Now through the game I bring my bear back to your villain. Fate is against me in health and virtue, driven on and weighted down, always enslaved. So at this hour, without delay, pluck the vibrating strings. Since fate strikes down the strong man, everyone weep with me. Lying in Flora's lap, Phoebus once more smiles, now covered in many-colored flowers. Zephyr breathes nectar-scented breezes. Let us rush to compete for love's prize. Ah, in harp-like tones sings the sweet nightingale. With many flowers the joyous meadows are laughing. A flock of birds rises up through the peasant's forest, and the chorus of maidens already promises 1,000 joys. This one is simple. It's about how fate is constantly changing due to decisions we make, and that fate is cruel and unfair to those who don't deserve it. You may also recognize this one as it's used in pop culture from time to time. Veni, Veni, Venias, Mori, Facias translates to come, come, oh come, Do not let me die. I think that this one can be interpreted in 3 different ways. The first is that Cloud and the others are rightfully worried that they actually may not win a fight against a godlike being with just a sword, a gun, literally their fist, and the power of friendship. The second is that the planet is crying out for Sephiroth to not proceed with his plan, which would lead to the planet and everything on it dying. And the third is referring to how Sephiroth could have been killed by Cloud but survived. I think it could really be any one of these, or maybe even all of them. If I had to pick one, it would be the planet crying out. I think it fits pretty well. Come, oh come, do not let me die. Beautiful is your face, the gleam of your eye, your braided hair. What a glorious creature. Redder than rose, whiter than lily, lovelier than all others. I shall always glory in you. This one also isn't about sex. It's about... Oh, no, wait, it is about sex. I didn't see it at first. I thought it was just a cute little love poem. But that article I mentioned earlier says it's about a sexual encounter, saying that the don't let me die is less don't let me die and more don't blue ball me, which is just amazing. Yeah, the lyrics are Gloriosa Generosa, not Japanese. Most people by now probably know this, but there are still a few people insisting it's Japanese for some reason. Anyways, at first I thought the song was describing Sephiroth as glorious and noble, which would make sense and tie in with the fallen angel and becoming god things, but then I remembered that the article I mentioned twice before said something about the song using the feminine versions, and yeah, Gloriosa is the feminine version of glorious, and Generosa is the feminine version of noble. The masculine versions are Gloriosus and Generosus. So that's just an error, right? Because the lyrics aren't original? Well, it could be, but I'd like to propose another option. Gloriosa Generosa is not referring to Sephiroth, but are instead referring to Jenova, specifically how Sephiroth sees Jenova. After he discovers the truth about his creation, he decides that he will follow Jenova and carry out her will, but instead his will overpowers hers. He sees Jenova as his mother and believes that she is above everything else. Or maybe it's just an error because the lyrics in the Carmina Burana are feminine. Who knows? Hail, most beautiful one, precious jewel. Hail, pride among virgins, glorious virgin. Hail, light of the world. Hail, rose of the world. Blanchefleur and Helen, noble Venus. These 2 words also come from a poem about sex. This one is short and sweet and gets right to the point. It's about a guy comparing his virgin lover to great women of the past in Helen of Troy and the Roman god of love, Venus. I got that, but I've never heard of Blanchefleur. Blanchefleur means white flower in French and was a popular name in the Middle Ages for women. The only well-known specific person named Blanchefleur I could find was from a love story called Floire Blanchefleur. I took French class, I should know that. There is an English version written later known as Floris and Blancheflower. The story was apparently very popular in medieval times, with the story being found in several different languages. So it makes sense as to why Blancheflower is mentioned. The English one was written around 1250, with the French one being written anywhere from 1160 to 1170. Now I know what you're thinking. Do you really need to explain the meaning behind Sephiroth and One-Winged Angel? No, I don't, and I'm not going to. But instead, I'm going to go over where the name Sephiroth came from. Okay, fine, I wanted to include this information but couldn't find anywhere else in the video to put it, so I'm putting it here. You know the seraphim I mentioned earlier? Yeah, well, Sephiroth's name has nothing to do with it. You might be stupid like me and think so, but no. However, his name is still taken from something religious. His name comes from the Sephiroth, which are the 10 attributes in which God can manifest himself in the Kabbalah. To keep it brief, the Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism. For those who don't know, mysticism is basically the belief that you can get close to God or gain universal knowledge or anything like that through different experiences. One attribute is known as a Sephiroth. The 10 attributes together are known as the Tree of Life. When I said to keep it brief, I mean this is a very brief and simple definition of these things. Oh, and if you don't believe me for some reason that Sephiroth is not where Sephiroth gets his name, I used the Hebrew word Sephiroth. The English word for Sephiroth is literally Sephiroth. And that should about cover it. While I would love to dive into how the song works in music theory or whatever, I know nothing about making music, so I'm just going to end it off here. I had a lot of fun making this video, and a lot of this stuff I found interesting, so I hope you will too. The script was about 10 pages long, which isn't a lot, but that means I've put more effort into this video than I've put into most of my college papers. Anyways, thanks for watching. I want to make more videos like this one instead of quick low effort ones like every other video on my channel.